How about them Cowboys?
Angry Cowboys fan, born to battle. Star on our chest means we never sell. America's team through thick and thin. When the star shines bright, that's when we win. Angry Cowboys fan.
What's going on, Cowboys Nation and angry Cowboys fans around the world? Y'all know who it is. It's your man, the Angry Cowboys fan, and I'm finna keep it a buck with your Cowboys Nation like I always do. There's been a number of great episodes. There's been great coverage of Matt Eberflus's termination over on 105.3 The Fan, especially on G-Bag Nation in the interview that they had with John Machota of The Atlantic. During said interview, the guys over on The Fan had a number of great questions for John Machota, questions about the timeline moving from 10 to 12 days to day 1 of the offseason, questions about how the players felt about Matt Eberflus in the locker room, things of that nature. And you know me, Cowboys Nation, I could have broke down the entire interview, but I chose the 3 best clips to give you my raw and uncut on because I don't want to keep you on this video all night. So we're going to take a listen to the 3 clips that I got for y'all, and y'all know what we're going to do after that. We're going to come back and unpack this raw and uncut. So, Angry Cowboys fans, let's take a listen to G-Bag Nation's interview of The Atlantic's John Machota over on 105.3 The Fan.
I just don't know a lot of players that were really going to bat for him, that really thought that it was some great scheme and it was putting them in the best position to make plays. And if you don't want to and you don't care what the players have to say, that's fine. Don't listen to players. Watch the games on Sunday. Watch them all 22. Tell me who played well. Just give me a couple guys on defense where you're like, no, you can build around that. That'll be good. Well, it was such a disaster that I'm fascinated to hear of any finger pointing other than, like I said, the Micah Parsons trade right before the season started. Sure, I'll point to that. But I will also be quick to tell people this when they bring up the Micah Parsons thing. You haven't been following what was going on here the last 3 years. If you think Micah Parsons on this team everything would have been great on defense and everything would have been fine. Because the Micah Parsons I remember doing podcasts after bad games, that Micah Parsons after that Vikings game, he might not have taken a shot at Matt Eberflus or say anything about J.J. McCarthy, but you know what he would have done? He would have heaped so much praise on what Brian Flores did and talk about how, man, I'd love to have a defense like that. And indirectly, if you read between the lines, he would tell you exactly what was going on there. So I pumped the brakes on anybody thinking that, like, well, if Micah was here, this wouldn't have happened.
Now, that was real talk from John Machota, but y'all know that there was nobody in the Dallas Cowboys locker room going to bat for Matt Eberflus. I want to say that Detroit Lions loss was the icing on the cake when it came to Eberflus losing the locker room. Jerry Stephen Jones kind of pulled out all the stops when they traded for Quinnen Williams, and it still didn't help Matt Eberflus turn this defense around. And as far as Micah Parsons, it's not out of the realm of possibility that some Cowboys fans would think that Micah Parsons would have changed the outcome of the defense by himself if he was still a Dallas Cowboy. Shit, they think that Dak Prescott can do the same thing, and he don't even play defense. A part of me now realizes why some Cowboys fans have that delusional moniker attached to them from rival fan bases. Now jumping into the second clip. John Machota's asked about the people and the players quietly grumbling about Matt Eberflus and the Dallas Cowboys organization. So let's go ahead and take a listen to that so we can come back and talk about it. Roll the clip.
I think you alluded to this a few minutes ago, John, but how many people were kind of quietly grumbling about Eberflus, whether it was players, coaches, or staffers, privately?
Yeah, I don't know an exact number, but what I keep going back to is there were times under Dan Quinn, there was times under Rod Marinelli, and even a little bit with Zimmer, where there's players that would stick up for the coach and talk highly of the coach, or, when things were going poorly, talk about how, we got the right guys here, I never heard that this entire year. There was never anyone that I really felt like, was really going to bat for Matt Eberflus. And honestly, you go back to the beginning of the season with Jerry and Steven, when they would be asked about how things are going poorly on defense, they would keep pushing back to how, well, we know Matt, he's been in this building before and all that stuff. But as the season went on, you heard less and less than that, even from Jerry and Steven. And that's where I started to really pick up on, I don't think he's going to be coming back, because they weren't even defending what was going on. And so players publicly behind the scenes, I really didn't hear a lot of them bashing him. I also didn't hear them really advocating for him. And the thing I keep going back to is the actions speak louder than words. And the action that stands out and will stand out most to me from this season on defense is the fact of Brian Schottenheimer openly talking about how much extra time he was spending in the defensive meeting rooms, and how much Jerry Jones talked about how much extra time Brian Schottenheimer was spending in the defensive meeting rooms.
He's absolutely right, Cowboys Nation. I remember when Micah Parsons stuck up for Dan Quinn a number of times while Dan Quinn was the defensive coordinator. There was even a point where Micah Parsons was talking about going to Washington with Dan Quinn. There hasn't been one player that's vouched for Matt Eberflus in that locker room. Shoot, I remember when we acquired him, there were a number of Bears and Colts fans who were commenting on my post wishing Cowboys Nation good luck with our defense. We'll talk about that more during the Raw and Uncut portion, so make sure you stick around for that. Now, jumping into the last clip, the guys over at G-Bag Nation ask if this decision would be only a decision when it comes to the coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball, pretty much highlighting the special teams coach and the need for a new special teams coach. Would the Cowboys be done with making coaching changes? So let's go ahead and take a listen to that so we can come back and unpack this Raw and Uncut.
When Steven was on the show Friday, he also brought up special teams. Do you think that they're done making changes along the staff?
I'm not 100% certain of that. I think if they felt as badly about the special teams as the defense, I think maybe that announcement would have been made already today. I think that they'll probably look through that and discuss that a little bit more as the week goes on. So I can't say definitively that there aren't more staff changes to happen on special teams, but Steven's comments, I was listening when he said that, but also just from our perspective of watching the Cowboys, a return group that has Kevontae Turpin, it has to have more explosive plays than it did this season. And I think the Cowboys are well aware of that. So there could be a change there. I just don't, it's nowhere near the level of what this Eberflus decision was in terms of it being an obvious, no doubt they're going to do that.
I don't think that the Dallas Cowboys brass thought of the special teams the way they thought about the defense, even though the returns wasn't as explosive as they were in the past. But let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of everything, shall we? Y'all ready for this Raw and Uncut? Y'all ready? Let's get it. Get ready for the angry Cowboys fans, Raw and Uncut.
Keeping it real, man. Keep it real. That's real.
All right, Cowboys Nation. The first thing that I want to say is thank the Lord that Matt Eberflus is not the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. I could sit here and do the jig, but hey, I got two left feet. But thank goodness that Jerry and Steven Jones didn't drag their feet on the decision to get rid of Matt Eberflus. They were talking about 10 to 12 days, doing an assessment for 10 to 12 days, and I thought that they would drag it out until the championship game, AFC and NFC. That way, the Dallas Cowboys could once again control the headlines instead of, the championship games controlling it. But watching this Dallas Cowboys team this year was extremely stressful for Cowboys Nation, especially seeing what the offense was able to do under a year-one head coach and play caller in Brian Schottenheimer. The Dallas Cowboys offense scored under 20 points 4 times this season. They scored 20 points or more 13 times and scored over 30 points 7 times. You mean to tell me that that's not enough to get a win in this league, Cowboys Nation? If you had a competent defense, then it would be. And I don't mean the competent defense as if the players on the defensive side of the ball was trash or anything. I truly believe that we had a number of quality players on this defense this year. I just feel that the Dallas Cowboys had a defensive coordinator that was stuck in his ways and was a little too comfortable in Dallas, seeing that he had 2 of the best advocates in the building in Jerry and Steven Jones. But Matt Eberflus had the my way or the highway type of mentality, and that's not going to fly in this iteration of the NFL. An iteration that sees a number of players voicing their opinions and displeasure with the coaches. Y'all see what happened with one of the former players on the team who voiced their opinion on the scheme that Matt Eberflus was trying to implement. Remember, Matt Eberflus don't like grits. Bro got excommunicated from the team due to his displeasures. But Cowboys fans witnessed throughout the 2025 season that our defense was a bend but don't break type of defense that broke a majority of the time. Even during a win, the Dallas Cowboys defense would allow opposing offenses to score at a high clip. Had it not been for the offense, this team might have seen themselves 0-17 on the season, but per the norm, you have some Cowboys fans who continue to blame the offense for the problems of this team, especially blaming Dak Prescott and Brian Schottenheimer. Now the narrative is that Dak Prescott has had 4 different defensive coordinators in the last 4 years. Not the defense, Dak Prescott. Well, Cowboys Nation, the first defensive coordinator in the 4-year span that they speak about was Mike Nolan. At the time, Mike Nolan had the worst defense in Cowboys history. The front office had to move on from him and acquire Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn stayed as a defensive coordinator until he got a head coaching opportunity in Washington. It wasn't as if Jerry and Stephen Jones had to move on from Dan Quinn. He moved on from Jerry and Stephen Jones. Then, like Mike Nolan, Matt Eberflus had an almost historically bad defense, and Jerry and Stephen Jones had no choice but to move on from him. What were they supposed to do, Cowboys Nation? Well, from the looks of some fans over on Facebook and X, they should have kept Matt Eberflus and just got rid of Dak Prescott and Brian Schottenheimer. That those moves alone would have been enough to save the defense. That those moves alone would have got us to a Super Bowl championship. How? I have absolutely no clue, Cowboys Nation, but that's what's being sold over on the platforms, over on social media. Those fans are looking down on the Dallas Cowboys for letting Matt Eberflus go after the defense put on a showing that they did this year. And I'm going to just let you know that I might go on a rant, Cowboys Nation, so please just bear with me. Anyhow, I remember when we acquired Matt Eberflus. There were a number of Chicago Bears and Indianapolis Colts fans that was wishing Cowboys fans good luck because they knew Matt Eberflus wouldn't be good for our defense. Cowboys fans, including myself, Cowboys Nation, I won't leave myself out of this. We dismissed their claims and we tried to look at the outliers in Matt Eberflus's tenure as a head coach, citing the times that the Indianapolis Colts or the Chicago Bears had really opportunistic defenses, Cowboys Nation. I remember there was a year when the Colts actually led in takeaways. We were assessing the exception and not the rule. Matt Eberflus gets over here and stinks up the joint, and the only thing that Bears and Colts fans were saying to me, I told you so. And let's not act as if they weren't right, because they were absolutely right. And speaking of the fans over on X and Facebook, some of these fans can be some of the most disillusioned and delusional fans that I have ever had the pleasure of talking to. After Matt Eberflus was fired, y'all know the conversation quickly steered over to Dak Prescott and how he had a number of coordinators. For the life of me, I cannot understand how this could be placed on the shoulders of Dak Prescott. Again, Cowboys Nation. It seems as if the only person that is held to account is Dak Prescott and sometimes Brian Schottenheimer. All I've heard throughout the season was, yeah, I know the defense is trash, but the offense should be able to score more points, Angry. Or, Dak Prescott knows that we don't have a defense, Angry. Or, Dak Prescott should be able to make the players around him better, Angry. I'm sorry, Cowboys Nation, but it really makes me think. It makes me wonder if I can have a legitimate football conversation with those types of fans, because that's not how football operates on any level. There's a blown coverage. It's Dak Prescott and the offense's fault. The opposing offense goes down and scores. It's the responsibility of the Dallas Cowboys offense to go down and match their score every single time. Screw holding the defensive coordinator or the defense accountable. Your offense should be able to bail him and them out every time they have a busted drive. Then, on Facebook, you had some person say that Joe Milton is the future of the Dallas Cowboys. And he got trashed in his comment section for it. One of the comments that stuck out to me really rang true because it rings true with Cowboys Nation. Well, some in Cowboys Nation. The comment reads, "Not near as good as Dak. You idiots have a top caliber quarterback and don't have a clue. If Dak goes anywhere else with a good defense, he will fuck Dallas up. Damn, Cowboys Nation. I couldn't have said it better myself. But it's a damn shame that fans from a different fan base can see what your franchise quarterback can do for a team that you root for, and you can't see it. Some fans are so thirsty to move on to something new that they will say any quarterback is better than the one that they have right now. Then they blame everything wrong with the team on Dak Prescott as if he has control over any other grown professional-ass athlete on this team. As if he's the defensive coordinator. As if he's the linebacker or the safety on the team. Don't get it twisted, Cowboys Nation. I believe that the Dallas Cowboys should start looking for the successor to Dak Prescott in 2027. But as long as Dak Prescott is making history for the Dallas Cowboys and having a top 5 season, I'm going to continue to believe in my quarterback. You can call me a homer, you can call me a Dak apologist or a Dakota witness. I don't really give a damn. I'll keep it a buck with you, Cowboys Nation. But all I want is for the Dallas Cowboys to make it to and win a championship. If this doesn't happen while Dak Prescott's under center, that doesn't mean that his career was a wash, though, Cowboys Nation. Shoot, I want to be a millionaire in my lifetime, but if I don't make it there, I hope that my family and friends don't think of my life as a waste because I didn't make it to millions. I want to be known as one of the best YouTube content creators in my field. But if that doesn't happen, or if I'm the best to a small group of fans, I believe I did good. But anyway, let's get back to the Dallas Cowboys letting go of Matt Eberflus. I honestly think that this was the right decision for Jerry and Stephen Jones. I'm honestly shocked at how fast they made this decision. I thought that they were going to hold on to it. They were going to garner the headlines throughout the playoffs and then have the question, who's going to be the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, as the question that dominates the media through the championship, Pro Bowl, as well as the Super Bowl week. Now I fear that the Jones boys will go with a familiar name that the Dallas Cowboys organization recognizes. The Washington Commanders just fired Joe Witt as their defensive coordinator. This was the person that the Jones boys loved while he was here under Dan Quinn. He was a top candidate for the defensive coordinator position until he made the decision to go with Dan Quinn to the Washington Commanders. Would they backtrack and pick him up again? Who knows, Cowboys Nation? What about Rex Ryan? I don't have to go into detail as to why they would go in Rex Ryan's direction, but I made a video about it. I'll leave the link to it in the description. But just like our head coaching search, Cowboys fans are throwing a number of top-tier names that will be a great defensive coordinator, but if Jerry and Stephen Jones stick with their normal selection process, the Dallas Cowboys won't go into that direction, but they'll hire someone from within like an Aaron White-Cotton. Other names include Jim Schwartz from the Cleveland Browns, Brian Flores from the Minnesota Vikings, John Harbaugh, the former head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, Raheem Morris, the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, and even our own former defensive backs coach, Al Harris. Though I would love for the Dallas Cowboys to bring in a top-tier name for our defensive coordinator spot, I'm going to keep my expectations to a minimum, Cowboys Nation. I'm going to keep them to a minimum, and I'm going to see who they bring in for interviews. All I say is that they better have a legitimate coordinator search and not just interview a couple of no-names then settle for Aaron White-Cotton. If you're going to settle for White-Cotton, at least hire him because he's the best candidate and not because he's already in the building. This has been your man, the Angry Cowboys fan. Cowboys Nation, who would you like to be the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys 2026 campaign? Do you feel that we have the majority of the personnel that we need in order to be at least middle of the pack? Y'all know how we do. We always talk about it in the comment section. If you're digging this content and you want to help the channel reach its goal of 20,000 subscribers, drop a like on this video, share this content with anybody that you know is a Dallas Cowboys fan, and if you're on your mobile device, make sure you hype this video. Doing so can almost guarantee that we'll get Dallas Cowboys fans over to the Angry Cowboys Fan YouTube channel. They'll become Angry Cowboys fans themselves, and we can root on our Dallas Cowboys from now until we're gone. And if you are DC for life, no matter which way Jerry and Stephen Jones goes in this coaching search, you're still going to be DC for life? hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell to be notified whenever I go live, release a video, podcast episode, or film breakdowns. You can catch the Madden 26 and College Football 26 on my new channel, the Angry Cowboys Fan Gaming Channel. I will put the link to that in the description. And I'm going to keep it a buck, Cowboys Nation. I don't give a damn if this is the 19th defensive coordinator in the last 4 years. If they're not working for the team, I would much rather Jerry and Stephen Jones move in a different direction so that we can get somebody in here that can coach these men up. To Matt Eberflus, hey, maybe it's time that you hang up the clipboard and head to Cancun or something, because if you're not flexible enough to change your scheme to fit your team, I don't know if there's going to be any NFL team willing to give you another chance. But hey, who am I? I'm just a YouTube content creator. But this has been your man, the Angry Cowboys Fan, and I'm out. Dang, Angry Cowboys fan, you done made it through the entire video. But if you want more content, you can definitely go to this video right here. Or if you want the latest episode of the Angry Cowboys Fan Podcast, you can go right here. But whatever you do, like, share, and subscribe to the channel, but remain DC for life.